Hey everyone, so I am going live today to chat about all the fitness questions that you dropped me in the last couple of weeks. So New Year's is coming up and that's a time of goals, which is awesome. I am definitely pro goals, but I find that there is so much crappy advice when it comes to how to achieve your fitness goals that we really need to kind of break it down. So you did shoot me a list of a bunch of questions, which I'm going to try and get through all of them in this one video. However, I do have a sleeping babe, so if she wakes up, this may be a double part. And there's also a few things I want to touch on as well. So when it comes to your fitness goals, yes, you should have fitness goals. It is awesome to have goals, but I am a very big believer in making sure that you have a solid plan of action and that action focuses on habit change. So if you want to jump into a crazy diet or a 30-day trial of something, that's great. But what happens after? So a lot of people fail because they put this deadline or this end date on their goal and then they wonder why they don't stick to it, and it's because you haven't changed a habit. Okay, so you need to focus on what you're actually changing and what you're going to stick to long term. So why don't we go through the questions first, and then I will save any major rants for the end. So I do have all the questions down below me, so if I'm looking down, that's why. I'm also terrible about seeing the comments as they come in, so bear with me, I'm going to do my best. So the first question is cardio necessary for fat loss? So the answer is probably going to surprise you. It's actually no, it is not necessary for fat loss. It is a tool like anything else. So I went for a lot of years without doing any form of cardio. I hated it. I wasn't a runner. I didn't like lifting weights fast. I didn't like any kind of cardio. And I got lean as hell. And that's because I just focused on lifting really, really heavy weights. So in the strength world, that is called recomping, okay? So that means that you can lift really heavy weights, change your body shape, lose fat, and not have to add in cardio, okay? So it is not completely necessary. However, it is a really good tool. So if you enjoy cardio, do it, but should it be your main course of action for fat loss? Cardio burns calories while you're doing it, which is great, but once you stop doing it, it is done. Strength training or building muscle is going to burn calories when you're not performing exercise, which makes it a lot more efficient. So you don't need cardio to... Okay, I think we are back. There we go. Okay. So you don't need cardio to lose weight. All right. It's going to be one of those connection days. You don't need a cardio to lose weight or for fat loss. You do need to train and you do need to focus on nutrition, but there are ways to get around the cardio aspect. So if you love cardio and you want to add it in, rock it. If you don't love it, you don't necessarily need it. Okay, so hopefully that kind of makes a little bit more sense. Okay, how often should you stretch and work on mobility? So this is a great question, and in recent years I've become so pro mobility it's not even funny. It was something that I avoided personally for a long time because when I had the time to work out, I definitely wanted to focus on bigger lifts and my biggest bang for your buck. But what I learned is that without mobility, you can't do all the fun stuff. The way this is broken down a little bit more is that stretching focuses on flexibility, which is very, very passive, and it refers more to like the lengthening of the muscle, whereas mobility is a little more active and focuses on the range at your joints. Okay, so two different kinds of things. Both have their place in a fitness program. I personally have my clients stretch and do mobility together in sessions. So they'll have their hard workout days and then, okay, the connection is gonna drive me absolutely bananas. And then on active recovery days is when we do our mobility sessions. So normally we warm up with a lot of dynamic mobility movements, and then once our muscles and joints are warm, we move into more static stretching. So this is normally done 1 to 2 times a week. Now, mobility drills are also really good before workout. It's called prehab. It's a great way to warm up before any major lifting sessions and to kind of injury proof your body. So you can also work your mobility drills into your warm up and then stretch post session. But if you're doing it at home, my biggest thing is to just find someone qualified to either teach you or follow along with, because you can do these things incorrectly and it can cause injuries. Coming from someone who has partially detached both of our hamstrings due to sheer stupidity, make sure you kind of know what you're doing when it comes to stretching and mobility work. So really focus on the cues there. But 1 to 2 times a week, do them at home. You can either add the mobility work into your before your workouts and stretch after, or you can have just full days where you work them both in conjunction with each other and really, really push that range of motion, okay? How to stretch at home. So this kind of goes into the mobility talk. So I personally just think that everyone should work with someone qualified at some point in time, whether that is someone who's genuinely qualified in giving technique tips on YouTube or Instagram, or you're seeing someone personally just briefly so you kind of get the basics down. And like I said, that's because I have partially detached hamstrings because I was really, really inexperienced and I was doing silly things, go figure, right? When you are stretching, you want to contract the opposing muscles. So if I'm stretching my hamstrings, I actually want to contract my quads so that my hamstrings release. And a lot of people overlook this and they just kind of hang into the stretch. Stretching is done passively, but you still need to focus and you still need to engage a little bit and you need to be in the proper position. So if you are going to stretch at home, just find someone qualified to show you how or to follow along with versus the random person who looks flexible on Instagram. The problem with looking flexible or looking fit is that it doesn't make them qualified to show other people how to get there. Yes, they've done it and that's great for their body, but not all bodies the same and not all techniques, cues should be the same, okay? So just kind of be aware of that. Okay, if doing weights and cardio in the same session, which comes first? So this is a fun one. You should do your weights first. And the reason why is twofold. One, weights are going to give you long-term the better bang for your buck. So you should put more energy in your priority on strength training. The second reason is that if you fatigue yourself with cardio and then go to lift, you're at a risk for injury, okay? So you want to do your heavy lifts, your hard stuff first, and then do your lower intensity cardio post-workout, or obviously on an active recovery day or an off day from weight training. How to get rid of lactic acid naturally. So this one came up in one of my groups. So I'm going to assume that this question is in regards to when you are working out. Now, for those of you who don't know, lactic acid is just produced in your muscle during intense exercise. Everyone has a threshold that they're going to reach, and that's when you kind of slow down. It means the intensity is too great and you can't keep up anymore. So the problem though is that it can also cause cramps, discomfort, soreness. To an extent, it's needed for muscle growth, but is not the primary factor. So during your workouts, you can improve your threshold over time, just as you adjust to the intensity and the stimulus. If you want to reduce it immediately, that just means you need more rest, you need more oxygen. So take longer rest between your sets, scale the intensity back, breathe would be great. In terms of outside of the workout, this isn't really the scope of this particular video. Basic stuff like staying hydrated, just make sure that everything's flowing. I would personally look at supplementing with magnesium if you're getting a lot of cramps. I use magnesium powder from Perfect Supplements, just add it to my tea at night, and I find that that really, really helps. So it kind of helps reduce cramps. It helps the fight or flight response as well. So I would look into those if you're looking to reduce it overall naturally, but in terms of exercise, it is just your threshold that you need to build up. And it just normally means that your body needs a little bit more rest time or oxygen. Okay, how to get rid of aches and pains post-workout. So in general, very, very generally, you can reduce delayed onset muscle soreness, which is your DOMS, by shifting your workout style. Okay, so things like eccentric training, where you are slowing down on and controlling, or genuinely the hamstrings, all of those, that tends to cause a lot more muscle damage, in which case you end up a lot more sore. So if you think of a Romanian deadlift, the part where I'm lengthening, so I'm coming down really, 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 really slow, that's eccentric training, and that tends to result in a lot of muscle soreness. You can reduce that, which is gonna help post-workout. The other thing to look at is intensity. So it's very normal when you start a new program or when you change your workout programs to experience a little bit more muscle soreness in the few days after as your body adjusts to the new stimulus. But if every workout session you are struggling to walk up the stairs or pick up your kids or do basic things, that's not effective, okay? So being sore isn't a benefit it doesn't mean that you are going to see results faster or better results. Okay, it is not a sign of a great workout. The goal isn't to cripple yourself every workout. Okay, it's not practical and it's not necessary for your results. So if you are finding that you are excessively sore post-workout, I would really look at scaling back your intensity, your load, your volume, and making sure you stay hydrated and are actually replenishing your muscles. So if you are working out 5 to 6 times a week and your intensity is high, and then you're fueling up on Big Macs, you're probably going to be a little bit more sore because your body doesn't have the nutrients that it needs to actually do its job. Okay, now if we are talking about soreness from old injuries, that's a bit of a different story. It's also very individual. So if you have individual questions about that, please shoot me a DM so I can kind of help. But the 2 common ones are knee pain and shoulder pain. So the biggest tip I can give is that you need to strengthen around the injury before putting major load on it. Sometimes you need to choose a different variation. So a lot of people have trouble with overhead presses when they are in a traditional military style grip when their elbows are out, but bringing their shoulders into a neutral position to press is going to keep them in a better position and not cause as much pain. With knee pain, especially when running, in my experience, it's a combination of weaker glutes as well as mobility through the ankle and the hips. Okay, so working those in conjunction can help relieve the knee pain. Pushing through knee pain while running isn't going to get you anywhere good. So to be perfectly honest, it's probably not worth it. I'd stop, I'd do a little bit of work, and then I'd go back to it. Okay, collarbone pain in pull-ups was one of the questions that I got, and it could just be hand placement, to be perfectly honest. So depending on your shoulder and your thoracic, your upper back mobility, some hand placements are just better suited to you, or if you've had a previous injury there and there's some scar tissue in your shoulder, it doesn't want to actually move through the range of motion that it should. So you can always go facing your face. Just gonna target your biceps a little bit more. Away from your face, gonna hit your back a little bit more, but people find this the most challenging for the shoulder. Or you can go neutral, okay? So on a neutral pull-up bar, and people tend to find that a little bit easier on their rotator cuff. It depends on how your shoulder and your T-spine are moving is what it comes down to. So I would personally, if that was me, I would scale back. I would work on range of motion and mobility through my shoulder and through my thoracic spine, and then I would work a lot more low impact, kind of regressing the pull up, looking at basic inverted rows, using a band, focusing on isometric holds before I took my body through the full range again. That would be my biggest tip for that. Okay, so what is the minimum amount of exercise and activities I can do to stay in shape? So I feel like this is the secret to life question. I understand that working out gets put on the back burner when it comes to the to-do list. There are just so many other things that you have going on that you kind of need to focus on. But at a minimum, I would say 3 30-minute workout sessions each week if your workouts are effective, okay? So fit means something different to everyone. Staying in shape means something different for me. That means being able to keep up with my kids, being able to do fun things that I like, and looking a certain way. That is definitely a priority to me. However, that's different for everyone. So I understand how hard it is to find the time to work out, but you need to make time for it. If you are doing 3 30-minute sessions a week, that is awesome. Make them effective, get the biggest bang for your buck, do some strength training, but you also need to be active outside of your workouts. So that doesn't mean you need scheduled workouts. It means go for a hike with the kids, or play baseball with them, or have a snowball fight. Like, move your body throughout the week, because those things kind of make a little bit of a difference and we overlook them, okay? So all the little things tend to add up. I hate to be the person that says if you don't make time for it now, you're gonna be forced to take time for illness later, but it does come down to if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, okay? So sometimes we need to do things that we don't necessarily want to do at the time, but we need to keep up with them. So I would say 3 30-minute sessions at least each week, and then just moving throughout the week when you can, doing fun things, playing, just not being overly sedentary. For people who don't like to work out, if you don't enjoy it, that's a sticky one. So 2 things come to mind. The first is that maybe you haven't found the right kind of exercise. So try different forms of exercise and wait and see kind of what suits you. The other thing is, yeah, sometimes things suck. Terribly sorry. And we still have to do them because they are good for us. So for me personally, when I started lifting, it wasn't my favorite thing. I didn't like being sore. I didn't like taking the time out for it. And frankly, it was hard, okay? It took about 2 to 3 months for me to kind of find my groove with the kind of lifting that I semi-enjoyed. And it really just came down to, I ended up really liking the feeling of being strong, okay? So sometimes it takes a little bit to get over the hump of what you like, but you need to move your body. Your body was made to move. And if you have certain goals that are strength-based, performance-based, or body composition-based, you just kind of have to suck it up and get into it, okay? So not what everyone wants to hear. Makes me the bad person as a trainer, and apparently I'm cool with that. But the truth is you just have to do it at some point, okay? So find something that you enjoy would be my best piece of advice. But sometimes that you do have to get over the hump of a new thing before you're going to enjoy it, all right? How important is intense cardio? I love lifting and walking, but hate running or anything similar. So this hits close to home because, as I said, I really didn't do a lot of cardio for about 6 years because I despised running. And the truth is, it depends on your goals. So obviously, if your goals are running based, you're gonna have to run. You can get lean as hell without any form of cardio if you focus on lifting and diet. So if those are your goals, you don't necessarily need it. If your goals are CrossFit performance, obviously you're going to need to do some form of intense exercise. If your goal is general wellness, then walking, hiking is plenty in terms of getting a cardio hit. So there's no perfect routine. It is very goal dependent and based on kind of what you like and what works with your body. So for some people, high intensity cardio really doesn't work for them. I know one of my girlfriends flares up really, really badly and actually gets exercise-induced hives, believe it or not, if her intensity reaches a certain point, okay? So you don't need to do high intensity cardio if you don't enjoy it, and it has nothing to do with your goals. There are so many ways to achieve each and every goal. Find one that suits you, okay? I personally don't like high intensity cardio. I have come to enjoy running in a low intensity capacity, but in terms of burpee workouts and those kinds of things, metabolic workouts, they are my least favorite thing to do. I'll do them every so often just for fun or if I'm hanging out with the girls, but they're not my favorite. So it's just very goal dependent, okay? So what are some good post-workout snacks and meals for those of us who work out at night? Okay, so if you are working out at night, this is a little bit goal dependent as well, and I know everyone hates that answer. But the truth is, unless you are doing something significantly difficult, so if you are super heavy lifting or you are running over 5 kilometers, you don't really need anything fancy, okay? You do need some fuel, but it doesn't have to be a big thing. It's really not gonna make the biggest difference. So fuel up with a combination of protein and carbohydrates. If it is right before bed, I'd say go a little less heavy, meaning try to avoid a fat-based meal because fat doesn't digest very well post-workout. You want something a little bit fast. You want something that will absorb a little bit faster. If your goals are to lean out, I'd say go for more protein versus carbohydrates, and then maybe think about because you're hungry post-workout. Honestly, eat. And eat something that's going to provide some sort of nutrients, but it doesn't overly matter what that is. So Greek yogurt and berries are a good one. Protein fluff, smoothies. If you are a meat person, like steak and berries, that works too, okay? So I would just go with a smaller portion because you don't want anything too heavy right before you're going to bed. Your body does need to kind of use it. So truth be told, just don't overcomplicate it, okay? Unless you are very, very strategic in your workouts and you are trying for something very, very specific, it doesn't have to be very complicated. Just eat actual food, keep an eye on your protein because that's what's going to kind of give you the building blocks that you need, and go from there. Last question that I got submitted, have you ever thought about the carnivore diet? So this was a fun one. I've actually thought about all diets, to be perfectly honest. There was a time when I genuinely thought about going vegan. I used to hate the carnivore diet, and now I kind of see the benefit there. So I've thought about all of these diets at some point in time. The truth is, every diet has pros and cons and has very good research to back it up. So for me personally, I wouldn't do the carnivore diet solely because I refuse to eat different than my girls right now. I'm not explaining to a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old why their mom is eating only meat, but they have to eat their vegetables. Okay, so we go for overall health. In my house, I do think the carnivore diet has some benefits to it, aside from just getting super lean, which you totally would. From a digestive perspective, it can help reset. There's been a lot of attachments to other health claims in terms of cholesterol and bloating and disease risk and all of that. So I think that it has merit. It's just not something that would work for me family-wise, maybe down the road when my girls are doing kind of whatever they want. But if we're sitting down for family meals and I'm eating steak and they're having XYZ, I just don't see that personally working. In terms of a vegan diet, again, I've also thought about that. I do think that we need plants in our diet. But in my experience as a coach, I've learned that while some people can tolerate vegan diets really, really well, a lot cannot. For me personally, I tolerate carbs fine, but having all my proteins come from heavy carbs, looking at rice and sweet potato and beans and quinoa, I don't find that it sits well with me. I do better on a higher protein diet, and I perform better. So those are very important things for me. So I'm not just looking from a body comp perspective, but I'm also looking at energy, getting through the day with crazy children. Digestion is a big one. Bloat is a big one. And for me, when I do eat very, very plant-based, I find I'm a little heavy. I get more sluggish because all my proteins are coming just from heavy carbohydrates, and it just doesn't work out for me. So my advice is to always trial and error different things and find out which one suits you best. There's no one perfect diet. Okay, we're all unique. So there is such thing as individuality on that. And we're all going to respond to a different diet in a slightly different way. So you need to figure out what works for you. For me, obviously eliminating dairy and gluten was amazing. Not only am I a lot leaner, I'm a lot less bloated, but headache-wise, energy-wise, clarity-wise, I feel a lot better. So that's my personal diet. Outside of that, I do eat meat. I do keep protein really fairly high, and I eat veggies because they give a bunch of nutrients because my kids need them. So it's very, very dependent on your own personal situation and how you feel. So the last thing I wanted to touch on was just, someone asked me the other day how I make it work with 3 crazies at home and still being very, very consistent with my workouts. And there isn't a great answer here, to be perfectly honest. The answer is I just do, okay? So I don't question whether I'm working out tomorrow or if I'm gonna have time. I just get up and we start it, okay? The habit has been created, we just do. And sometimes that means a shorter workout, a 20-minute workout versus the 40 minutes that I wanted. Sometimes it is more of a high intensity workout versus the slow lifting workout that I wanted. I do have to be a little bit adaptable with the littles. But the point is that it gets done, okay? Sometimes you have to make the best of the time that you have versus the time that you think you should be given. So for me, sometimes if my day has gone to hell and I am walking to pick up the girls from school, I'll do running sprints on the way to pick them up because it gives me a little bit of a workout versus one that I wouldn't have. Or the 15 minutes that they are occupied, the other day they made headbands. I'll find something to squeeze in then, okay? So it's not always about making a specific time and carving out time to do your workout because that normally just stresses you out, it goes to shit. But about finding things you can do in the times that you are given. So those little things, those 5-minute workouts, those 15-minute workouts, they do add up. I do think you need structured workouts in your weekly routine, in which case pencil them in, get them done. There's going to be distractions, there's going to be diaper changes and stop and start moments, but you need to get everyone in the habit of getting the workout done. So for me personally, my girls, if we don't work out after breakfast, they're confused. They don't understand what's happening and they ask if we're going down to the gym because I've set that expectation. And yes, it takes time and sometimes it's eye-twitching. You've seen all the chaos that happens in this gym, but it works. Okay, so you have to find a way to make it work. You have to be a little bit adaptable, but you are the parent. Put the foot down and work out from home. Don't go to a gym. I know gyms are great, but honestly, who has time to actually get to a gym? Okay, so I feel like there's more questions coming in. I will do my best to answer them. at a later date, but I hope that gives you a little bit insight as to how to achieve your goals this year. If you have questions, drop comments, shoot me a DM, let me help, because like I said, there is so much crappy advice out there saying that you need to do high intensity burpee intervals and work out till you puke and be in the gym 6 days a week on a low calorie diet just to achieve any fitness goal, and it's not true. Okay, so I haven't been in a gym, obviously, a public gym, in quite a few years. My calories sit around 1,800 to 2,000 a day, I think. And yeah, I couldn't do burpee metabolic workouts if my legs depended on it for more than about 3 minutes. Okay, so there are ways to get around everything. There's a lot of ways to achieve each and every goal. Don't feel that you need to be sucked into one specific way that you hate. All right, Happy New Year.